All right. Thank you, Ms. Our former Commissioner Patrice Shelton. And I too went to that and I enjoyed it thoroughly. It's very informative. I got to learn a lot. But we're going on with our old business and we're going to turn that over to Mrs. Where's her title? Vice Senior Vice President, Mrs. Kenyatta Green. Sorry about that.
No apologies necessary. Good evening, all. Want to provide some additional information about our lease enforcement efforts and particularly our age receivables numbers for the month of May. Please note this information will be forwarded to the entire board following this committee meeting. Before the month of May, we have 1,610 families with a balance of $51 or more, with a total amount of approximately $3.2 million. The breakdown of these charges includes about 94% of it being attributed to rent and repayment agreements, 2% of it going towards excess utilities, and 1% for maintenance charges. Again, additionally, together with our CEO, Mr. Nesmith, and a team that he has assembled, we are working to pull together information and a proposal which
overcharging people maintenance
loves
fees
to call the Compassion Action Initiative, which would be geared towards us providing a creative strategy.
How is 1% maintenance fees, and you've been charging people maintenance fees for years?
But also within the prevention track, we will provide a plan to address the growing age receivables balance in detail. And that is the end of my presentation, Ms. Bridgewood. Did you have any questions?
I don't have any questions at this time. So and I appreciate that wonderful, thorough thing. And I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing your title right. It's the SVP Affordable Housing. All right, Senior Affordable Housing. All right, and
she don't know.
Already went over the towing.
Title. No.
So no, we didn't go over the towing of the vehicles. So remember from the last meeting that we had, before we actually went out or introduced a process of policy, we wanted to bring it back before this committee to kind of work through some of the details to ensure that we're all in alignment with what the goals are to providing the safety.
They want to try to start towing people cars.
Housing residents, especially with us gearing up with summer, so we know we'll have more visitors and more individuals visiting our property. So the draft towing policy has been provided in the packet. And as we look at measures to ensure proper parking and additional safety for our RJ residents, this is why we created or wanted to create the towing policy. The purpose of the policy is to establish rules and regulations for the towing of vehicles, which is related to our families and being able to get back and forth to their units, not having to park further away from their unit than necessary. What? And then the look. We want to make sure that we create a marketable appeal to our sites that doesn't allow for us having cars that are not operable and others in our communities.
Yeah.
RRHA will still comply with the ticket violation process, at which time any vehicle that's parked illegally on grass or is seen to be in violation of parking regulations, a notice will be posted on the door. This information would then be shared with the towing company, who is Cybers, and the violations.
Cybers.
That what we're looking at, the violations would include vehicles that are non-movable, non-drivable, disabled, non-motorized, unregistered, and or they have been undriven vehicles that have been stationary for longer than 15 days after unsuccessful attempts to identify who the owner is. So if the violation is not corrected or moved to a proper location, the vehicle would then be towed at the owner's expense. But we are also working with Cybers to create some signage to post.
So in 2017, they said they was doing that for security purposes.
If it's in a location,
now they're saying it's about
they have the contact number, who to call,
marketable appeal,
where to go to pick up,
and about residents. I thght it was about security.
Also, one difference that we're making, and this
they used to say it was about security.
Conversations that we had around parking on the grass and things,
and getting all the bad people out.
We realize is that
that's what they said.
The infractions occur over the weekend, and so. Or when our property management offices are closed. So what we're going to do is we're going to utilize our Century 4 security team so that we have.
Oh my God! They writing tickets now.
they find
The
it,
security people writing tickets.
or whatever the case may be, we can continue even throughout the week.
They ain't doing
That's one
nothing
of the
else.
big items that has been added or adjusted in this towing policy. But
That's
would love
crazy.
to hear feedback from you and others on anything that we
That's
may
crazy.
do or would need to do to make this a more robust policy. Sorry, I did speak a little fast. Tell me if I
They got
need
the
to go back.
security guards writing tickets.
We're gonna go back, but not right now.
People are funny.
Commissioner Parker, do you have any comments? Eddie Jackson, Commissioner Jackson or something?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Ms. Kenyatta, that is, thank you. I think that's where kind of working from the fringes to get the parking together. I think people start noticing. The only thing that I would make a recommendation of, which you're already on top of, which is signage, just so that our community residents understand, what's about to happen. Just communication and informing them, and then having signage there, like you've already made.
They ain't even worried about getting recommendations from the
I
community.
think this is a great idea.
Just go tell them what's about to happen.
You got coverage for the weekend. It kind of sounds funny, but I actually like the pressure that's on us, because it gives us an opportunity to show folks in the community that we understand what we're doing, and it gives us an opportunity as well to tighten up on our, just tighten up on our game. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for the comments. We if like later you figure out, because right now what we're going to do once we present it to the committee, we wanted to gather any thoughts, any additional ideas, and then we'll work with our CEO to determine what an effective date is that we'll be ready to go ahead and roll it out. But definitely sometime early summer, since we know our properties will have more visitors than they normally would.
I really appreciate that. I do have a question. I do have a question. Will there be some type of language for those who are who come to the some meeting that they come to, the residents come before they come in, so they can be attached to, so they'll know about that when they get into the communities, all communities, they'll know that this is just like they do a little, I know in Gilbert, they do like an orientation or something like that to explain the parking and all of that, so that it won't be said that they didn't know.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And one of the things we want to do, because during COVID, we got away from doing the larger new orientation program for new residents. We are looking to go back now that, things are a little bit safer. We are looking to go back and do that specifically for that reason, so that families can hear firsthand information about things that are going on, specific lease regulations and all those different things. But for now, until we do that during the lease readings, because this information will be shared with each and every person prior to them signing their lease, and highlighted so that they could really see that, we're going to really enforce the towing policy, so no one would be able to say that they didn't know. And the importance of them understanding with their guests that, the guests, they are responsible for the guests and where the guests park to.
Question?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Madam Vice Chair, I think it's important that we do, being the lawyer in me, that we do give people quote unquote notice. So as you said, they can't say, well, I didn't know about this and they just took it. I think similar to other communication campaigns that we come out of Ms. Fountain's office. We do, Save Your Spot campaign. We have a lot of campaigns. This is one we're going to have to do a campaign.
Yeah.
Around this.
Yeah, we're going to have to do a campaign.
Absolutely do not want anyone to say, they just took my car and
it
I
don't
was not
matter.
Notified by it.
You're never
that is
going to
something
implement.
that we have to avoid. And so we're going to
never
really
going to get done.
Spend a lot of time avoiding that to happen. Some people are going to say it anyway, even though they did know about it.
They're liars. Well. Everybody's a liar.
And I also want to, give a shout out to former Commissioner Patrice Shelton. When I first joined, and I was getting around to get to know
They
the
think
commissioners.
call
There's
everybody
one
lie.
thing she had talked with me about. It was an hillside, so but we know it's a problem to go out. So it's a great thing.
All right. Well, we're gonna move right on to our new business and our Mrs. Kenyatta Green, our Senior Vice President of Affordable Housing, if she could lead us into all of the bullets.
So the next item on the agenda is our flat rent schedule. So just a little information and background about the flat rent schedule. At initial occupancy and annual reexamination, HUD requires that we offer a choice of rent for families that are residing in public housing. The choice is between their rent being calculated based on their income or based on flat rent calculations. The flat rent option is generally based on 80 to 100% of the fair market rent for the jurisdiction as it's determined by HUD. And with the flat rent, the tenant's rent remains fixed and does not vary with changes in the income. It's just based off of what the market. And HUD instructs all PHAs to create a flat rent schedule annually with approval from the CEO and the Board of Commissioners. So the schedule that you have before you, we actually created prior to January 2024. However, we are needed to get this flat rent schedule ratified by the Board of Commissioners as stated in our comprehensive monitoring review. And so we just want to make sure that we get the flat rent schedule that's in your packet ratified, and then we'll be back before you to discuss the updated policy as it relates to the process for completing and monitoring the use and effectiveness of the flat rent schedule. Because the next time that we'll need to do the analysis and create another flat rent schedule is when the fair market rents come out in October. So August, September timeframe, we'll have another actual policy around the flat rent schedule, how it's created for board review and approval prior to our 2025 flat rent schedule being done.
Any, Commissioner Jackson, do you have any questions on that piece? Because she's not completely finished, but on that, other, if not, nobody else, could you proceed on, please?
So next on the agenda, we'll have Mrs. Trotter, who is our Assistant Vice President of Compliance, Housing Compliance. She's going to provide an update on the tenant council elections for 2024.
Good evening, commissioners and staff. Our resident council elections took place March 27th of 2024. 4 elections actually were carried out, and all of those election results have been certified. Unfortunately, we still have councils and or communities without all officers filled, officer positions filled. So property management and resident services are working diligently to get residents who may have expressed interest, but at the time during the nomination period, for whatever reason, did not complete a nomination form. So they are still working with the RTO to get those vacancies filled.
And people don't want no new people on them.
Are there any questions?
Madam Vice Chair, if I may. So, Ms. Trotter did a great job in her team, and with the recent RTO, or as I say, council election. I will say that we're going to have to reform the way we can those elections are conducted. So I have talked with Ms. Trotter about it. I was talking to Denise about it, but with Ms. Trotter, we're going to make sure, for instance, we want to make sure that if the rules are that if you're a candidate, you cannot just hang around the polls to give the appearance that you're lobbying at the polls, just like, regular elections within the city. So there are a number of things
candidates can hang out at the polls.
I know that the RTO wants us to engage in some reforms. I just wanted to say that because I think it's important for us in the role we play, even though we don't get involved in the elections.
Right.
We have a role.
You seem to be
involved
involved
in that fair. So we're going to be coming up with some.
They're counting the ballots or
recommendations about
something.
how
It
to
sounds like.
reform the election process. We'll be sharing that.
I don't know why they would do that.
Commissioner, thank you so much. We need that. Commissioner Jackson, do you have any questions? Seemingly, we're gonna go right on back to our Senior Vice President Affordable to continue in the agenda.
Next up, we have some quick updates from our VP of Public Safety, Martin Harrison, some things that he and his team has been working.
Good evening. How's everyone? So for public safety, right now the city of Richmond, basically Richmond Police Department is initiating a summer initiative called Safe Summer Initiative. They're inviting in various law enforcement agencies, the state police, the DEA, Drug Administration Office, ATF, alcohol, tobacco, and they're inviting Chesterfield and Henrico. They have not committed to that as of yet. But what they're going to do is they're going to be patrolling our areas, our big 6 areas, and other hotspot areas throughout the city. They're going to be utilizing overt patrols. As you know, a few weeks ago, we had a week or 2 weeks where we had a bunch of homicides in the city, and a few of those was in our communities. So they're going to be doing this to stop violence, in particular gun violence and homicide.
All the security and all the
cameras. How does that bear on us? We're going to be utilizing our security force to augment their patrols.
Right.
So in the areas where they can't be, we're going to try to be. It's going to be a collaborative patrol effort.
Yeah, right.
Both overt and covert patrols. We have been working well with them in the past, securing crime scenes, helping them with witnesses, and doing different things like that, making sure that all the investigations go smooth on our property. Our extent will be limited to our property and our property alone, but they welcome us and encourage us to be a part of this program, and it's a good venture for us.
All right.
Madam Chair,
Go
if I
ahead.
may, I'm going to have Marty give this presentation and a bit more to the full board, because as Marty said, we've had some unfortunate, things happen in this, not just the city, but in the big 6. And so it's important that
your cameras
the
catching
commissioners, the
things?
full board know what we're doing
Security's catching
and
things.
the coordination efforts that we're taking with RPD. That's it.
Commissioner, thank you. Commissioner Jackson, do you have any comments?
No, I'm just getting my reception. I apologize to everyone. I am on the highway. I'm bringing my youngest daughter back to school, and so
All right.
I don't have
He apologizes. I think he's driving, the driving rule. So, we understand. All right. And, I want to commend, the security. I have seen it in my community. I can't say others because I haven't seen it because I haven't been over there as much to do that. But I can say that in my community, Gilpin, that I want to commend. And I just want us to take just a minute of silence for the young children with the gun violence in our community.
But you was like 3 weeks late, 4 weeks late with your moment of silence.
All right, thank you.
It's
And
like a
with that
weird mess.
said, I would like to see more of initiative towards maybe something, a fun event or something like that. But if we got any money for that,
Y'all got money.
generate or find sponsors that can help us with that. Because I think the police, they do pop-ups. If we can partner with them a little bit
Y'all
more,
got $500,000
find out in our neighborhoods,
And
about
unrestricted
that,
funds
because
sitting
it's a
around.
sad thing for a
playing
mother
like
to
y'all
have
broke.
to experience to bury her child. With that said, we're gonna move. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say, as it relates to gun violence, we communications that with the CEO has directed us to. We're going to be taking part in the Wear Orange gun violence prevention campaign, and it's actually, I think it's nationwide, and it's going to be. We're going to do all sorts of things around that whole messaging, to make sure that RRHA highlights our partnership with the Richmond Police Department, and just shows kind of our support for, making sure that, that we acknowledge those that experience that very unfortunate event in their lives, in our communities.
With that too, Madam Chair, because we get funding also from the State Attorney General's office, and the efforts that we're doing around, violence prevention and de-escalation as well. So we'll be thanking them.
That is wonderful. Maybe that's something that yeah. With that said, we appreciate that. We're gonna go back to our Senior Vice President of Affordable Housing to continue on with our agenda.
And forgive me, Madam Chair, because
I'm sorry. We wanted to thank you, Ms. Angela Fountain. That's our VP of Commissioner and Public Relations. Communication and Public Relations.
So I skipped one item. You have requested a maintenance update specifically to the work orders.
Mm-hmm.
And so as was requested, information related to the work orders for the month of April is as follows. So for the month of April, we received about 1,300 calls for service for non-emergency work orders with an average turn time of 16 days. For the month of April, we also received 38 emergency work orders, with 24 of these being completed after the 24-hour completion requirement, which is not a goal that we want to establish, and 14 or 37% of them being completed within the 24-hour completion requirement. There were also 102 vacant units turned in preparation of new families being pulled from the wait list, additional options for families that need to transfer for reasonable accommodation or safety issues. Additionally, we are working with the staff to identify some of their barriers and or concerns that prevent them from meeting the established expectations. We've already scheduled an initial meeting, and with the follow-up meeting, we will be documenting like specific visions and goals for each one of the communities, kind of really putting specific goals around as opposed to just being overall and generic for all of public housing. We're going to implement individual goals for each site so that we are like really spending quality time within the sites, identifying what those, because the concern at Hillside may be different from Fairfield. Right. So we want to make sure that we're addressing each site for what their needs are and not just public housing overall.
Really appreciate it. Okay, Commissioner Jackson, do you have a comment on, we're talking about the maintenance?
Yeah, I'm following along. Just good stuff. We seem like we're being more proactive.
What?
That's good. It's covering all of our bases.
That's what you heard?
Continuation of the journey.
That's what you heard?
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson.
She said
Thank you.
20
All right.
emergency orders have not been completed
Last
within
thing on the
24
list
hours.
is an update from our partner, the real estate community development vice president, on the Creighton Court and Lombardi relocation updates.
Good evening, everyone. So to give you some updates on where we are with Creighton, just some background reminders. We are doing relocation for this redevelopment project in 3 phases. Phase 1 happening in 2021, with relocation also happening prior to 21 through our Build First approach with Armstrong Renaissance. We are now into the phase 2 of relocation, and phase 3 has not started. At this point, once we've completed phase 2, we'll begin the assessments for phase 3 residents. So focusing just on phase 2, all the residents who live in phase 2 and any residents who still live in the community from phase 1 have been reassessed as of today. The relocation team is working with the residents to prepare them for the next steps, whether that's getting them on wait lists for PVVs, letting them know about new PVV sites that come online, getting them ready for a voucher briefing, so getting all of their paperwork in as necessary, getting them to voucher briefings, and helping them find housing. To date, we have 51 families in Creighton currently who would like to receive a tenant protection voucher as their relocation option. As a reminder, that's a voucher that works just like our housing choice voucher program. It just has more, it has different subsidy coming from the Section 18 approval letter, but works in the same way as a housing choice voucher. 4 families want to move to a project-based voucher unit, so that's those units that have subsidy tied to them. And 18 families have chosen to wait for new units to be developed at Creighton Court and to move into those units when they're ready. We have 213 residents to date that have been relocated from Creighton. 65 families have moved with the tenant protection voucher. 107 families have moved to PBV units. That includes Armstrong Renaissance. And 41 families have moved in a different way. That can include some have gotten home ownership. Some residents have abandoned their units or have moved on their own. So that's all for Creighton. Wanted to make sure there were no questions there before I moved on to Lombardi.
Are there any questions? Okay. And I did have a question. If you could explain the PB voucher and the other, what's the other?
Tenant protection voucher? Yes. So we give the families who are being impacted by redevelopment 4 different options for relocation. The tenant protection voucher is a voucher that we receive through HUD approval for the Section 18. So as we get their approval to do redevelopment, they give us tenant protection vouchers to help with the permanent relocation process. These vouchers work just like the HCBP program. The tenant receives the voucher and they're able to find housing on their own throughout the city of Richmond. The voucher covers a portion of their rent and the resident pays the remaining balance. That is the most popular choice here in Creighton. The PBV is a project-based voucher. That is where the voucher subsidy is tied to the unit itself. So when the resident moves in, it stays with the unit. When they move out, it stays with the unit. The resident does not take that voucher subsidy with them. Those are the units that we're building with development partners, such as sites at Kingsridge, Alexander at 1090. Again, Armstrong Renaissance has those replacement units, the Planet in Jackson Ward, and we have a list of many, many others that have been built or will be built. We do an annual competitive RFP to get these on site. They're very popular with our developers as it helps them gain financing from Virginia Housing to build these developments. I think I covered that well, Kenyatta. I don't know if you have anything else to add.
Madam Chair, if I may, Vice Chair. So that presentation, both the Creighton Court and Lombardi presentation by Alicia will be given next week, Tuesday, at the Real Estate Committee meeting. It is technically a real estate subject matter. Yeah. And so it will be given next week, Tuesday. And also want to say if Commissioner Jackson's, I think he's still there. Commissioner Jackson, we'll be giving you your dashboard tomorrow in advance of the Tuesday Real Estate Committee meeting.
Okay.
And for Lombardi, we have not started that project yet, but we had a great kickoff meeting with the awarded contractor with our capital funds group. Once we have a more solidified date, we will start sending 30-day notices, to our residents, giving them that 30-day mark. We have already sent 90-day notices to them, giving them a heads up that this move will happen. Prior to sending them notices, our relocation team did resident assessments with each resident at Lombardi to see what their needs may be, understanding that we're dealing with a senior population who needs greater assistance. We wanted to make sure, what kind of units
Y'all
they
better
need.
go
Should
check
they
on them
live
people
or
in Lombardi.
be in wheelchairs? Should they have
You know they
physical
fucking them over.
issues? Should they have
Y'all
special
better go
medical
check on your
help that they'll
people.
need assistance
Them
for? So we went
seniors.
through that with them
They
at
do
the
not
beginning of
treat
this
seniors
process.
good.
Every resident who will be affected by the relocation does have a unit designated for them to move into once we begin the modernization project. So those residents will either stay temporarily on site at Lombardi in a different unit, since we're doing the construction floor by floor, or they will move temporarily to 611 4th Avenue. That's the end of my update.
All right. All right.
No, I would just say on that particular project, we're excited, as Elisa said, to get started first at Lombardi. Then we'll be moving methodically to each of the other senior sites. We've been doing team meetings, briefings at each of the senior sites to tell them what they should expect
Okay.
in terms of relocation, how much stuff you can take with you, what do you need to take with you.
Storage.
Yeah, so we've taken a lot of time, Kenyatta and I and the whole relocation team and real estate, even with Don Mullen's team, some of the maintenance folks, really telling them, because that's a little scary, right? When you say, okay, where am I going to go? How long I'm going to stay there? What things I need to take with me? And then also we've been talking with them about what they can expect.
How they're working with their families, because the elderly depend on their children sometimes, and those who don't have anyone.
So that has come up. You know, I'm handicapped. What assistance are you going to get? Give to me as I'm looking to move out. I have different needs, and so one of the things is that we're going to have a person. You correct me if I'm wrong. Who it is? Going to be Kenyatta, but we're going to do an individual assessment of each senior citizen, saying what is your needs for your relocation, so we can figure out, because everyone's needs are different based on not just disability, just because of who they are. But yes, some may say, you know what, I'd rather just go stay with my uncle or my aunt or my son or whatever. But I think those individual assessments are really important for seniors, because it can get kind of a little scary. Okay, where am I going to go? How long I'm going to stay, and all the rest. But the bottom line is that they're extraordinarily excited. That the board and RRHA as a whole have found this funding to do something, and that is to really transform their lives and make it better internally for the units, externally, and also the common areas. And so it's been received really well. I think you'll probably hear one person come the full board meeting as a senior and talk about it.
Well, we appreciate all of that. And my last comment will be, we don't have any FYIs from HUD changing policies or moving forward with our properties or anything.
No, ma'am, not at this time, but in the future we'll be.
Because I want to update on those from our council report, so we can keep up with our compliances and from HUD and making sure that those things are heard in our properties. All right, now we're going to conclude. I have to do my part. Our encouragement, we want to thank everybody who came, even on our online. But our encouragement quote today is, "It takes courage to grow up and become who you really are. Your self-worth is determined by you."
What the hell is she talking?
Nothing is important. Nothing is important. Keep your face always towards the sunshine, and shadows will fall behind you. You have a brain in your head. An attitude is a little thing that makes a big difference. That is our quote for today, and we want to end on that positive note. Thank you. Same time, different date, but we appreciate everyone for coming to the Property Management Committee.
What's wrong with this woman?
We are now adjourned.
This conference is no longer.
You sound